Hello again and welcome back to my study. This is where we consider topics pertaining to good, clear, correct writing. And on the computer screen you can see again I have some clutter off to the side there, but ignore that and pay attention to the document right in the middle, because today we're going to talk about run-on sentences. Run-on sentences are something I see a lot of. People who just don't make the distinction between a sentence that is actually incorrect in structure and one that is a real, legitimate, correct sentence. And run-on sentences are one example. So we're going to talk about this in a two-part lecture. In the first part, we're going to talk about recognizing run-on sentences. How do we know them when we see them, and what causes them? What kinds of structural errors lead to a run-on sentence? And then in the second lecture, we'll talk about how to fix a run-on sentence when you've written one, or when you encounter one in editing. You read your draft over and you can tell from having recognized the run-on sentence that you've actually executed there. Now what do you do about it? How do you fix it? Very simple ways, and it's a concept that isn't that difficult to understand, and yet it is a very common error, one I see all the time, and I have to note it frequently in correcting student papers. So let's begin. We'll talk about how to recognize a run-on sentence. So how do we do that? Okay, first of all, let's look at our first block of copy here. And that says that run-on sentences are independent clauses that have not been joined correctly. That's a very good, succinct definition, but what does it mean? An independent clause is a word group that can stand alone as a sentence. So an independent clause can be a sentence in and of itself. When you've got two independent clauses in one sentence, they have to be joined in one of two ways, and here they are. You can join them with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And here's just a brief listing of the coordinating conjunctions: and, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. And, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. And you need one of those and a comma if you want to correct a run-on sentence with two independent clauses joined incorrectly. Or you can use a semicolon, or occasionally a colon or a dash, depending on the sentence you're involved with. But a semicolon, where you have joined the two clauses, will also make it a correct sentence and not a run-on sentence anymore. So there are two types of run-on sentences. So when a writer puts no mark of punctuation and no coordinating conjunction between the independent clauses, it's called a fused sentence. So a fused sentence is basically two independent clauses with no punctuation to separate the clauses. Here's an example. It says, air pollution poses risks to all humans. It can be deadly for asthma sufferers. Two thoughts, two independent clauses, just joined together with no punctuation or any other indication that we have to accommodate somehow this complex sentence to let people know how to read it. So, a far more common type of run-on sentence, though, is called the comma splice. And the comma splice means that you have two or more independent clauses, and they're joined with a comma, but they do not include the essential and required coordinating conjunction. So in some comma splices, the comma just appears alone. So here's a comma splice. Using the same sentence from above, air pollution poses risks to all humans, comma, it can be deadly for asthma sufferers. I see sentences like this all the time in student writing, and the writers who put those sentences into their writing seem to feel that the comma has taken care of any problem with what might otherwise be a run-on sentence. And it's not a fused sentence, to be sure, so that's an improvement. But the comma alone can't do it. In other comma splices, it says the comma is accompanied by a joining word that is not a coordinating conjunction. And it says here, there are only 7 coordinating conjunctions in English, and we reviewed them up above. Here they are again. And, but, or, nor, for, so, and yet. If it's not one of those words, if you are joining your two independent clauses with a comma and some word that is other than one of those 7 coordinating conjunctions, it's not an appropriate remedy for a run-on sentence. It's still a run-on sentence. So here's a comma splice that shows you what we mean when we're doing it in that form, when we have the wrong word, not a coordinating conjunction. And I see this kind of sentence all the time too. Air pollution poses risks to all humans, comma, however, comma, it can be deadly for asthma sufferers. Many people think that sounds just perfect and expresses what they're trying to say, but it is incorrect because however is a transitional expression, and it cannot be used with only a comma to join two independent clauses. It must be a coordinating conjunction, one of the 7, and, but, or, nor, for, so, or yet. So however doesn't cut it. Okay, that will finish this little discussion about how to recognize a run-on sentence. In part 2, we'll talk about how to fix a run-on sentence.